They say the internet never sleeps, and neither will you after tonight. Somewhere on Reddit, buried between cat memes and movie debates, are stories people wish they never had to tell. Stories that sound too real, too detailed, too disturbing to be fiction. These aren't just creepypastas, they're confessions, moments of terror shared by people who swear they lived through them. A shadow that followed them home, a knock that came from inside the walls, a whisper they heard after everyone else had gone to sleep. Each post begins the same way I didn't believe in ghosts until this happened. So tonight, turn off the lights, put your phone face down, and don't look behind you. Because these are 10 Reddit scary stories that will keep you up all night. Story 1, The Midnight Knock. I've always been fascinated by midnight. That strange, silent moment when one day dies and another quietly begins. There's something different about the air then. Thicker. Still. Almost like the world is holding its breath. I used to stay awake just to feel it, the soft hum of streetlights, the distant bark of a dog, the clock ticking like a heartbeat in an empty room. They say midnight is when the veil between worlds is thinnest, a time when spirits wander freely and prayers carry further than usual. But I never believed in any of that, not until that night. It was a Thursday, cold, quiet, uneventful. I'd been reading in bed, watching the time crawl toward 12. When the clock finally struck midnight, something changed. The air shifted subtle, but undeniable. And then I heard it. Knock, knock. Soft, measured, coming from my front door. At first, I thought I imagined it. It was late, maybe a dream bleeding into reality. But then it came again. Knock, knock, knock. This time slower, heavier, like someone testing if I was awake. I froze. I live alone, and no one ever visits me at that hour. My phone said 12:03 a.m., no messages, no deliveries. Just silence, and the faint echo of that knock still hanging in the air. I tried to peek through the peephole, but there was nothing. No shadow, no movement. And yet, somehow, I could feel someone standing there, breathing, waiting. I don't know how long I stayed by that door, 5 minutes, maybe 10, but when I finally stepped back, the knocking stopped. I turned off the lights and sat in the dark, listening for anything, a creak, a whisper, the shuffle of footsteps walking away. Nothing. When I finally worked up the courage to open the door, the porch was empty. The street was silent. Only one thing was out of place. On the ground, right in front of the door, was a small folded piece of paper. No handwriting, no marks. Just a single word printed neatly in red ink, awake. Story 2. Is there a secret stalker at your workplace? It started as a feeling, a quiet, creeping sense that someone was watching me. You know that strange chill that runs through you when your instincts whisper before your mind catches up? That's how it began. I work in a mid-sized office downtown. Normal job, normal people, or so I thought. For the first few months, everything was fine. Then, small things started to feel off. At first, I brushed them off as paranoia. A mug slightly moved on my desk. My chair angled differently. A faint whiff of my perfume in the hallway, even though I hadn't been there that day. Then came the glances. You know, the kind that linger a beat too long. I'd look up from my monitor and catch someone across the office quickly turning away. It wasn't always the same person. Sometimes it was a blur of a figure near the copier. Sometimes a reflection in the glass wall behind me. But I always felt eyes, always. One night, I stayed late to finish a report. The office was empty, just me and the low hum of the air conditioner. I was typing when I heard footsteps, soft, deliberate, coming from the far end of the corridor. I froze. Our security guard had already done his rounds. No one else was supposed to be there. The footsteps stopped right outside the door. I turned around. No one. But the lights in the hallway flickered, once, twice, then steadied again. I packed up and left so fast I forgot my laptop charger. The next morning, it was sitting neatly on my desk, coiled, perfectly aligned, like someone had placed it there waiting for me. After that, things got worse. Every morning, I'd find something slightly different. A sticky note moved, a pen missing, once. A photo of me and my coworkers, the same one pinned to my cubicle wall, was gone. A week later, it showed up in my drawer, folded in half, my face scratched out. That's when I started to pay attention to everyone. There was Mark from accounting, always smiling, always asking if I needed help. Too nice, too consistent. Then Lisa from HR, who always seemed to appear whenever I went for a coffee break. Same cafe, same table. But the more I looked for answers, the more confused I became. Everyone seemed normal, and yet I couldn't shake that heavy, invisible stare. One afternoon, I stayed behind during lunch, pretending to work. I wanted to see if someone would come to my desk. At 12:43, I heard my drawer slide open, softly, carefully. I turned, but whoever it was had already vanished down the hall. Inside the drawer, a small note written in red ink, "You shouldn't stay late." I brought it to HR. They said it was probably a prank, just office humor. I tried to laugh it off, but it didn't feel funny. Not when my phone started ringing at 3 a.m. Unknown number. Silence on the other end. Not when I started getting emails from untraceable addresses. Messages like, "You look tired today. Blue suits you. Don't forget your charger again." It wasn't just in my head anymore. I began parking closer to the entrance, leaving earlier, avoiding the empty elevator rides. But the fear followed me home. Sometimes, I'd find my front door unlocked, even though I swore I locked it. Once, I woke up to my bedroom window, open curtains moving slowly in the night breeze. That's when I installed a small camera in my living room, just to be safe. For a few nights, nothing happened. Then, one morning, I found the camera turned toward the wall. The footage was blank, except for one frame, a single still image. Me, asleep, someone standing in the corner of the room, watching. I brought everything to the police. The calls, the photos, the footage. They said there wasn't enough evidence, no faces, no fingerprints. Just fear. I thought about quitting my job, moving, disappearing. But then, the messages stopped. The emails vanished. The phone went silent. For weeks, I almost convinced myself it was over. Until last Monday. I came into work early. The office was dark, except for one light at the far end of the hallway, my desk. On it, a single envelope. No name. No return address. Inside was a printed photo. It was me, sitting at my desk, taken from behind, time-stamped 8:07 that same morning. Now I don't stay late anymore. I don't answer unknown calls. I keep my blinds shut, even during the day. Because whoever they are, they're still out there, watching, waiting. And I can't help but wonder every time I catch a reflection in the glass, or see a figure standing too still in the hallway, if they ever really left. Story 3. What's hiding in the dark basement? I've always hated basements. The smell of damp air, the silence that feels too heavy, the way the light from upstairs never seems to reach the bottom of the stairs. But that night, I had no choice but to go down there. The power had gone out after a storm, and the breaker box was in the basement, the one place I swore I'd never go alone after dark. I stood at the top of the steps, flashlight in hand, listening to the faint hum of rain against the windows above me. It was silent down there, too silent. I told myself it was fine. It's just a basement. Concrete, pipes, old boxes, nothing to be afraid of. But the moment my foot touched the first step, the air seemed to change. It was colder, thicker, like the house itself was holding its breath. Halfway down, I hesitated. My flashlight flickered just once, and in that brief moment of darkness, I thought I saw movement. Something small, quick, at the edge of the beam. I froze. When the light steadied again, everything looked normal. Just shadows, dust, and the old wooden shelves along the far wall. Still, I could swear something had shifted. I made it to the bottom of the stairs, each step creaking like a warning. The smell hit me first, earthy, metallic, like wet soil mixed with rust. The breaker box was near the back wall, just past an old freezer that hadn't worked in years. I aimed my flashlight toward it, and that's when I noticed it, a faint outline in the dirt floor, a rectangle, slightly raised. It looked like a hatch. I didn't remember ever seeing it before, and I've lived in this house for 5 years. My heart started to race. There was no reason for it to be there, no reason for it to look freshly disturbed. I took a step closer. The air grew heavier, and then something moved beneath the floor. Just once a soft, shifting sound, like fingers dragging against wood. I stumbled back, nearly dropping the flashlight. The beam danced across the walls, catching old family photos, rusted tools, the edge of the washing machine, and then something else. A shape. It was crouched behind the shelves, small, still, watching. I held my breath. The beam flicked past again, and it was gone. I don't remember moving, but somehow I found myself standing right in front of the breaker box, fumbling with the switches. The light overhead sputtered, then buzzed to life, a single weak bulb swinging from the ceiling. For a second, relief washed over me. Then I looked down. The hatch was open. Just a few inches, enough for a sliver of blackness to show through. And from inside that dark slit, a draft, cold, breathing. Something down there was breathing. I stumbled backward, heart pounding, as the bulb above me started to swing faster. The chain creaked with each movement. And then, a sound came from beneath the hatch. Not scratching, not shifting, whispering, faint, rapid, almost like a voice repeating the same phrase over and over, but too low to understand. I backed toward the stairs. Every instinct screamed at me to leave. Then the whisper stopped. Silence for 3 long seconds. And then, bang! The hatch slammed shut so hard the bulb shattered. I ran, didn't even look back, just ran up those stairs 2 at a time, barely managing to slam the basement door behind me. I stood there in the dark hallway, heart hammering, hand still gripping the doorknob. Something was scratching on the other side, slow, deliberate. And then it stopped. I didn't sleep that night, didn't even move from the couch. I just watched the door, waiting for it to open. The next morning, I convinced myself I had imagined it all. Storm stress, lack of sleep, too many horror podcasts, maybe. I went back down that afternoon, broad daylight this time, and everything looked normal. The hatch gone. No outline in the dirt, no sign it had ever been there. But when I turned to go back upstairs, I noticed something etched into the concrete wall. Small, carved deep, 4 words. You shouldn't have come. That was 2 weeks ago. And now, every night around 3 a.m., I hear it again, that faint, rhythmic tapping coming from under the floorboards. At first, I thought it was pipes, or maybe the house settling. But sometimes, if I listen long enough, I swear I can hear it whisper. Story 4. What happens when you dial a wrong number? Have you ever dialed a wrong number and heard a voice you didn't expect? A voice that didn't just answer, but lingered. There's something strangely human about it. A single misdial, one wrong digit, and suddenly you're connected to a complete stranger. It's supposed to be nothing. A quick apology, a sorry, wrong number, and that's it. But sometimes, it isn't. It started with a quiet click, the kind that comes before a voice answers. Hello. Her tone was soft, unsure. I froze, because that wasn't the voice I expected. It was older, hesitant, almost trembling. I checked the screen again. The number was wrong. I was supposed to call a friend, but instead, I called her. I'm sorry, wrong number, I said quickly, and yet, she didn't hang up. There was a pause, then a whisper. Oh, please don't go yet. That's when I realized there was something behind her words, a loneliness I could hear. Most wrong numbers end instantly, but not this one. This one stayed with me. You see, every call connects 2 lives for just a heartbeat, 2 people who were never meant to meet. And yet, in that small moment, anything can happen. Sometimes it's awkward, sometimes funny, but every once in a while, it's unforgettable. I remember stories people shared online about wrong numbers that led to right people. A college student once texted the wrong number, inviting a stranger to a family barbecue. The stranger showed up anyway and was welcomed like one of their own. A soldier overseas called a wrong number, hoping to hear his mother's voice. He ended up talking to a nurse in another state, and she sent him care packages until he came home. Small mistakes, big ripples. But not every story ends with laughter. Some wrong numbers lead somewhere darker. One woman shared that she kept getting the same call every night. Same time, same static. No voice on the other end. She changed her number, moved cities. Still, the calls followed. You start to wonder, what if the wrong number wasn't an accident? I once got a call from an unlisted number, a man's voice, calm, like he knew me. Is this still you? He asked. I hesitated. He said my name, my full name. But I'd never heard his voice before. Click. Call ended. That night, I stared at my phone for hours, my reflection in the dark screen. What if someone dialed me on purpose, pretending it was a mistake? You'd never know. Not really. Sometimes, it's easy to laugh about these things, to joke about random calls and weird texts, but every connection leaves a trace. Every voice you hear, even for a second, becomes part of your story. A man once said he got a call at midnight, a wrong number. The woman apologized and hung up. But the next morning, he listened to his voicemail. It was her voice again, only this time, she wasn't saying sorry. She was whispering something. A name. His name. Maybe that's just coincidence. Or maybe some lines should never be crossed. Still, not all wrong numbers are eerie. Some are oddly beautiful. There's a story about 2 musicians, both struggling, both lost. One misdialed the other's number, thinking he was calling his agent. They started talking. Hours passed. They shared their music, their pain. Months later, they released a song together, a hit, all because of one wrong call. A writer once said the same thing happened to him. A stranger called late at night, asking for someone else. They started talking. That conversation became the inspiration for his next book, the one that changed his life. It makes you wonder how fragile connections really are. How a single mistake can rewrite a story. How a wrong number can sometimes be the right one. Back to that night. The woman on the phone, the one who asked me not to hang up, we talked for 10 minutes. Her name was Marjorie. She said she lived alone. Her husband had passed years ago, and sometimes she just dialed random numbers, hoping someone would answer. I listened, mostly silent, letting her voice fill the spaces. Before we hung up, she said softly, "Thank you. I just needed someone to talk to." I never heard from her again. But sometimes, when the phone rings late at night and the number is hidden, I still wonder, is it Marjorie? That's the strange beauty of it all. Every wrong number is a doorway to laughter, to fear, to connection, to mystery. Sometimes you hang up and forget. Other times, you remember that voice forever. So next time you hear that click, and someone unexpected says, "Hello, don't rush to hang up." You never know, it might be the start of a story you'll never forget. If you've ever received a wrong number call that turned into something you couldn't explain, tell me. Because maybe, just maybe, none of these calls are really wrong at all. Soft pause, ambient hum fades. If you like this story, don't forget to subscribe. And stay with me, because next time we're dialing into something much darker. Story 5. Night shift turns into pure horror. It was supposed to be just another quiet night. A few security checks, some coffee, and silence. That's how night shifts usually go. Long, lonely, predictable. Until they're not. I worked the overnight shift at a small distribution warehouse. Just me, a few flickering lights, and the endless hum of old machinery. I used to love the calm, the stillness of 2 a.m. No people, no noise, just the sound of my own footsteps echoing through empty halls. But that night, the silence felt different, heavier, like something was listening. It started with the lights. One of the overhead fluorescents started buzzing a low, rhythmic flicker, like a heartbeat. I looked up. It stopped. Then, from the far end of the building, another light went out. Just one. Then another, and another, until the entire left wing was swallowed in darkness. "Great," I muttered. "Another fuse." I grabbed my flashlight and started walking down the corridor. The beam sliced through the dark narrow, pale, barely enough to see. My boots scraped the floor. Something dripped from above, a slow, steady tap. I told myself it was just condensation, old pipes, nothing unusual. But my gut said otherwise. Halfway down the hall, I heard it. A voice. Soft. Low, calling my name. "Eli." I froze. The sound came from somewhere near the loading dock, too faint to be an echo, too real to ignore. I swung the flashlight around nothing. Just rows of empty pallets and shadows. So many shadows. I radioed the front desk. No response. Static. The line was dead. That's when I noticed something on the floor. Footprints. Not mine. Bare feet. Small. Damp. They led from the emergency exit straight into the storage area. I followed them slowly, Each step felt like it dragged me deeper into something I shouldn't be part of. The air got colder. The hum of the machines faded until all I could hear was my breathing. And that faint sound again. Eli. The footprint stopped in front of storage room 3, the one that was always locked. Only the manager had the key, or so I thought. Because now, the door was open. I pushed it slowly. The hinges screamed. Inside darkness, thick, suffocating darkness. I stepped in, and the door behind me swung shut. Hard. The flashlight flickered once, twice, then died. Total black. And then, the whisper came again, but this time it was right next to my ear. Don't look at me. I felt a cold hand brush against my shoulder. I turned instinctively and saw nothing. But the air moved. Something shifted beside me. Something breathing. Slow, wet. I backed up, fumbling for the door. My fingers found the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Locked. From the outside. I slammed my fist against the metal. Hello! No answer, only that sound again, like bare feet sliding across the floor. Getting closer. Then, a flicker. The flashlight came back on. For half a second. Just enough to see it. A figure, crouched in the corner, pale skin, head tilted at an impossible angle, eyes wide open. Watching me. The light died again. I didn't wait. I ran. When I finally burst out of that room, I didn't stop running until I hit the front office. The power was back. All the lights were on. And my coworker, Sam, was sitting there half asleep. He looked up, confused. Where the hell have you been? I just stared at him. Who else is here? He frowned. No one. Just us. I didn't tell him about the footprints, or the whisper, or the figure in the dark. I clocked out early, drove home in silence. But when I took off my jacket that night, I noticed something on my sleeve. A handprint. Small, gray, like dust. But when I tried to wipe it off, it didn't fade. It was pressed into the fabric, like something had grabbed me. The next day, I came back to work. Sunlight filled the warehouse. Everything looked normal, ordinary. Except for one thing. The manager was yelling at maintenance. Apparently, one of the cameras had been tripped during the night. Must have been you, he said. I nodded. But later when he showed me the footage, I realized it wasn't. The screen showed me walking into the left wing, flashlight in hand, exactly like I remembered. Then, a few seconds later, something moved behind me. A shape, small, barefoot. But the face was blurred, like the camera refused to see it. And then, just before the footage cut to static, the shape looked directly at the lens and whispered something. No sound, just lips moving. 3 words, over and over. Don't look back. That was the last night I ever worked there. They said the system glitched, said it was all stress and exhaustion. But I know what I heard. I know it touched me. And every time I close my eyes, I still hear that voice. Calling my name, softly, patiently, waiting. If you've ever worked the night shift, you know the silence feels different after 2 a.m. That's when the building breathes. That's when the shadows move. And if you ever feel like you're not alone, trust that feeling. Because maybe you aren't. Soft ambient fade out, distant hum, final whisper. Don't look back. Story 6. What is happening to the follower? At first, it was just a number. Account, a reflection of connection. Followers, thousands of names, faces, tiny dots glowing behind screens. But somewhere along the way, something changed. The numbers began to move on their own. It started one night. While I was scrolling through my analytics, everything looked normal, steady growth, steady engagement. Then, suddenly the follower count dropped. Not by 1, not by 10, but by hundreds. I refreshed the page. It went back up. Refreshed again, down again. It was fluctuating wildly, like it was breathing. At first, I thought it was a glitch. Algorithms do that sometimes. They clean out bots, reset data. But this felt different, because every time the count went down, I got a notification. Not a normal one, not a new follower alert. These were messages, private messages, from accounts that no longer existed. Each message said the same thing. "Stop watching us." At first, I laughed. It had to be spam, some weird bug. But the next night, it happened again. And this time, I noticed something else. Every time a follower disappeared, so did one of their old comments. Completely erased, like they had never been there. I tried to check one of the missing profiles, clicked their username, nothing. Just a blank page. But when I looked closer, I noticed something odd. Their profile picture, it still appeared for a split second before vanishing. And in that split second, I could have sworn their eyes were looking right at me. The next day, I posted a story about it, joking, mostly, "Guys, I think my followers are haunting me." The engagement exploded. Hundreds of people commented, laughing, speculating, playing along. But by morning, half those comments were gone. And the accounts that wrote them gone too. That's when it hit me. It wasn't just the number that was changing, it was the people. They weren't unfollowing. They were disappearing. I reached out to a friend, a data analyst who worked with social platforms. He told me something that made my blood run cold. "There's a pattern," he said. "Your account isn't losing random followers. They're vanishing in clusters, every 12 hours, like clockwork." He paused. "And it's not just you, it's spreading." I asked him what he meant. He sent me a file, a spreadsheet tracking multiple creator accounts. Every one of them showed the same thing, a rhythmic drop, regular, predictable, almost intentional. I spent the next few nights digging through old posts, and that's when I found it. A comment from an account I didn't recognize. It said, "They're not unfollowing, they're being taken." When I tried to reply, the comment was gone, just like the others. I started checking who was left, the ones who still followed me. Most were silent accounts, no profile pictures, no posts, no bios, just empty names. Watching. One night, I decided to live stream. Maybe talking about it openly would make it stop. The chat filled instantly, hundreds of messages, curious, concerned. But then the chat slowed down. The messages began repeating, over and over. "Stop watching us. Stop watching us. Stop watching us." And then the stream froze. My camera glitched. For a split second, I saw faces behind me, dozens of them, blurry, pale, like digital ghosts bleeding through the signal. I ended the stream immediately. When I reopened my follower count, it had dropped to 0. Every single one, gone. Except for one. A new follower, username @thelaststone. No profile picture, no posts. Just one line in their bio. You're next. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Every sound from my phone made me flinch. Every notification felt like a heartbeat. I tried deleting the app. It reinstalled itself. Tried logging out. It wouldn't let me. And then new messages started coming in. Private DMs. From nowhere. Each one had the same image attached. A screenshot of me from my live stream, but taken from behind. I checked my room. No one there. But on the wall behind my monitor, there was a mark. A handprint. Smudged. Gray. Like static burned into the paint. I unplugged everything. Deleted every account. Started over. New phone. New email. No social media. But sometimes, when I'm scrolling through videos late at night, I see my old username in the comments. And underneath it, a single reply. From @thelastone. You can't delete followers. They delete you. If you're watching this, check your follower count. If the number's dropping on its own, don't refresh. Don't click anything. Because once you notice the pattern, it notices you back. And once it starts watching, it never stops. Soft fade, static glitch, whisper in reverb. Stop watching us. Story 7. Airbnb turns into a nightmare. Cinematic rewrite. It was supposed to be a quiet getaway. A few nights away from the city, a chance to breathe again. I booked a small Airbnb on the edge of town, a cozy little cabin with warm lights and 5-star reviews that made it sound perfect. When I arrived, the road was darker than I expected. No streetlights, just the crunch of gravel beneath my tires and the soft hum of crickets in the woods. The house looked different, older, colder. The pictures online showed a warm glow, but in person the windows were dark, the curtains drawn tight. I told myself, it's fine. Maybe it just looks better in daylight. I walked up the steps, entered the code, and the door creaked open, slowly. The smell hit me first. Something damp, something off. Inside, the furniture was mismatched. Dust lined the counters, and the bed, it looked like someone had just been in it. I froze. My host had messaged earlier check-in anytime after 6 p.m. I won't be around. So why was there music coming from the next room? I called out, "Hello." No answer. Just a faint shuffle, like footsteps retreating across the floorboards. My heart started racing. I opened the door to the living room, and there, on the table, was an old phone. Still unlocked, still playing a voice message. A woman's voice whispered, "I told you not to rent this place again." I backed away. My hands were shaking. Suddenly, the front door slammed shut. I ran, pulled the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Someone was outside. I could hear the crunch of boots on gravel, slowly circling the cabin. Then a man's voice, low, calm, said from the other side of the door, "You shouldn't be here." I didn't wait. I grabbed my bag, rushed to the back window, and broke the latch. Cold air flooded in as I climbed out, tumbling into the wet grass below. I ran to my car, barely breathing, my hands fumbling for the keys. When the engine roared to life, I looked back and saw him standing on the porch, a tall silhouette, just watching me. I didn't stop until I reached the main road, didn't look back again. Later, when I called Airbnb to report what happened, they told me there was no active listing at that address. The account had been deleted 3 months ago. If you ever book a stay and something doesn't feel right, Trust that feeling. Because sometimes the nightmare doesn't start after you fall asleep. It starts the moment you check in. Story 8. I survived a dark web encounter. I thought I knew the internet. I thought I'd seen it all. Until that night, when curiosity dragged me into a place I should have never gone. The dark web. It started as a challenge, a late-night dare between friends. Just explore it, they said. It's all rumors anyway. But once you step in, you realize it's not rumors. It's real. And it's watching you. The first few clicks felt harmless. Just strange forums, odd usernames, threads full of nonsense. But then, the deeper I went, the quieter it got. Websites stopped feeling like websites. They felt like doors, locked doors. Each one asking for a password, each one whispering, "Do you really want to know what's inside?" My screen flickered. A message appeared, no username, no source. Just a line of text. "We see you." I froze. It had to be fake, some automated bot trying to scare me. But then another message came. "Don't try to leave." I slammed my laptop shut. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it echoing in the room. But when I opened the screen again, the chat was still there, still active. And now they were typing my name. My real name. I hadn't entered it anywhere, not once. Then came my city, my street, my building number. I couldn't breathe. Every instinct screamed at me to disconnect. But before I could, a new window opened. It was a live feed from my webcam. I saw myself sitting there, frozen in the dark, eyes wide, staring back at my own reflection. Then, in the corner of the screen, a second figure appeared. Behind me. I spun around, nothing, just shadows. When I turned back to the laptop, the stream had ended. The chat window was gone. In its place, a single message. "Next time, knock before entering." I didn't sleep that night, or the one after. Every sound, every creak, felt like a warning. I wiped my drives, reset everything, changed every password I owned. But sometimes, in the middle of the night, my webcam light flickers. Just once. And I wonder, did I really escape that night, or did something follow me back? If you ever think about exploring the dark web, don't. Because once it sees you, you can't unsee it. And sometimes the darkness doesn't stay online. It finds you, right where you are. Story 9. Final story revealed. It all started 10 nights ago. 10 stories. 10 glimpses into the unknown. And now, we've reached the end. The final story. But something doesn't feel right, because this ending was never meant to be found. When I began this series, I thought I was just telling stories. Creepy encounters, unsettling coincidences, whispers from strangers on the internet. But each story had something in common, a pattern I didn't notice at first. A name, a sound, a timestamp. Midnight, the knock, the basement, the wrong number, the dark web. Every event I told you about, every fictional story was connected. And tonight, I finally understand how. It began with a file, an email I don't remember opening. Subject line, Story 9, do not reveal. Inside was a single attachment, no sender, no date, no trace of who sent it. The file name, Final Story. When I opened it, it wasn't text, it was audio. Someone breathing, slow, uneven, and then a whisper. You shouldn't have told them. I froze because I recognized the voice. It was mine. I checked every device, nothing was recording, no saved files, no background processes. And yet the recording kept playing, over and over, each time slightly different. In one version, the voice was crying. In another, it was laughing. And in the last one, it said my name. That was when the power went out. The room plunged into darkness, and my screen flickered to black except for one line of text. Everything connects at midnight. That's when I realized each story wasn't just a random tale from Reddit. It was a warning. The midnight knock, the basement, the wrong number, the dark web encounter. They weren't separate events. They were stages, tests. And I had been documenting them for something or someone watching. The first clue was in the timestamps. Each file I uploaded had a hidden tag, a coded signature embedded in the metadata. When I decoded it, each one spelled out a phrase. "We see you. We're closer. Don't stop now. Finish the story." And now, here I am finishing it. Because I have to. Because maybe, if I complete it, this all stops. Around 2:33 a.m., my monitor lit up again. No internet, no signal, yet the screen displayed a feed. It was my room, Live. From the ceiling corner. Except I don't have a camera there. And in the feed, behind me, something moved. A silhouette, standing still, watching. It wasn't human. Its head tilted in short, jerky motions, like it was studying me. Then the feed glitched and the words appeared. "Thank you for telling our stories." At that moment, I realized something chilling. Every story I told, every horror I described, wasn't fiction. It was confession. Not mine, but theirs. The people behind the voices, the ones who vanished after midnight, the ones who dialed the wrong number and never hung up, the ones who opened their webcams and found themselves staring back. They weren't warning us. They were documenting us, recording what happened to those who listened. I tried to delete everything, the drafts, the audio files, the scripts, but they keep coming back. Every time I restart my computer, the folder Stories 1 to 10 reappears on my desktop. And when I hover over it, it shows today's date, even though I haven't touched it. I clicked once just to check. Inside are videos of me, telling stories I haven't written yet. Now I understand the final line of the email. You're not the storyteller, you're the story. Maybe that's what this was always about. Not about telling scary tales, but about creating one. Each story I shared was another thread pulling me deeper into the web until now. I've become part of it. It's almost midnight now. The clock on my wall has been stuck at 11:59 for the past hour. And yet, I can hear it ticking. Tick, tick, tick. The cursor on my screen is moving on its own, typing one final line. The last story is still being written. If you're watching this, don't look for the files. Don't try to connect the dots. Because once you see the full picture, it sees you back. That's all 10 stories, 10 nights, 10 warnings. But if you're hearing this message right now, if your screen just flickered, then maybe you're next. Thank you for finishing the story.